very much. I want to show you that the path ahead is, from my point of view, an exponential growth, which we have to expect. It has to be, because our problems are also exponentially growing. Exponential growth is not something which is easy to grasp by most people. I put two examples here on this first slide. The old story of the king who is trying to reward the developer of the chess game. He asked only, put one corn of rice on the first field and then double every field and just give me what is left from the 64th field, which is actually 430 times the world production of rice nowadays. There's also the second story, which is coming from the report of the Club of Rome in 1970 to show how exponential growth of, at the time, population is difficult to grasp. If you have a pond with a lily pad, which is doubling every day, and the pond is fully covered after 30 days, and you ask people, when is it half full? Most people say, yeah, after 15 days. In fact, it is obviously after 29 days, because it's half full on 29th and full on the 30th. On average, they say 23 days. Not 1% of the pond is covered at this time. And this shows, I think, quite nicely the problem. I make my slides available. The QR code is also on the last slide, again, if you are interested. So, exponential growth is something we are observing at the moment in the key technologies which we need for a human exposome project. Mass spectroscopy is doubling sensitivity every 3 to 4 years, so you can say in the last 30 years our detection of substances has improved 1 million-fold. And it is expected around 2030 that we can routinely identify single molecules in our samples. Microphysiological systems, bioengineered human systems, are doubling publications every 4 years at the moment. Genome sequencing is following a negative exponential growth. It is halving in price every 1.4 to 2 years. Now, the $3 billion for the first genome can be achieved for $200. Our computers are doubling for the last 60 years. Moore's law, doubling in capacity every second year at half the price. And the data in the world are doubling every 18 months. And most quickly of all, AI is doubling its capacity since 2010, when deep learning was introduced, every 3 months. So this year's AI is 8 times more powerful than last year's. And the prices are falling in the last 18 months, 280-fold, or the other way around. It was 18 months ago, 280 times more expensive to compute the same number of tokens. To illustrate this with me, this is me as a younger version. In 1976, I had access to my first computer, which was by today's dollars $85,000 worth. It was already as good as the Apollo moonshot guidance computer from 1969. This is me nowadays with a 2022 laptop, and this is about 1 trillion-fold more potent than this piece. And my iPhone, which is just 2 years younger than the computer I'm using, is already as powerful as this laptop. And this shows you the permanent growth in computational capacity what we have available. With AI, we have seen a tremendous story. It is just a little bit more than 3 years that ChatGPT 3.5 came out, and we have to say it was a gimmick. But it has become now from gimmick to genius. Because I get answers of the frontline models which are in the quality of an academic professor having access to Google, but I get this in minutes instead of hours if my colleague is actually willing to talk to me. And this is a tremendous ride in just these 3 years. At the same time, our problems are increasing with respect to exposure. We have 350,000 chemicals which have been registered for commerce. 10% have some data roughly, 1% have sufficient data, but for example, only 0.1% of our chemicals have ever been tested for cancer in standardized assays. And we can say the problem is exponentially growing because every 3 to 6 years, the number of registered chemicals, CAS numbers, is doubling. So this problem is also growing. We have to outpace this. And using an AI tool, I've made this graph illustrating the problem. The tools we have right now, which are very much animal-based, are simply too slow. They cannot handle this type of growth. They are not even increasable to a large extent because it's too expensive. And so we have to do something about this, and the exposome is the answer from my point of view. I'm working in the field of toxicology, and AI is here really trying to make big sense with big computers from big data. And exposomics is the bringing together of all of these data and in a structured way analyzing them. To show you with our own data what growth AI in toxicology is undergoing. Our very first paper we had using some AI was assessing one toxicity endpoint. We had used about 1,000 data points and 150 chemicals, and we're 65% correct. A few years later, we addressed already 9 toxicities, the most frequently done animal tests, had 600,000 data points. We calculated for 190,000 chemicals, and we're 87% correct over these 9 endpoints. And then this is continuing. Last year, we had a model enhanced which predicted 4,000 properties of chemicals based on a 260 million data set from 12 databases, and we predicted 26 million chemicals, a holdout set of 10%, and we're on average for 4,000 properties 91% accurate. And now, beginning of 2026, we predict 6,000 properties. Our data set has 70 billion data points from 2,000 databases which were scrawled from the net. We can predict any chemical, and we are at the moment assessing what our prediction quality is, but the rule of big numbers would suggest that we can only improve on this. And we will have in 1 month the release of this model, and I hope this will be a ChatGPT moment for toxicology. It's now about building trust into these. This is a paper we wrote at the time of writing. Robert Clive was head of the FDA, the entire FDA, 19,000 people agency, and we are discussing, is regulatory science ready for artificial intelligence? So the exposome. The exposome, you heard already, is the complement to the genome. The genes load the gun, the exposure pulls the trigger. And we want to put a safety on this by understanding the mechanism. We organized this Moonshot Forum, you heard already a year ago, with 400 people, which were discussing, and the most important part of this for us was bringing in the civil society into this discussion. We had the possibility to work with support from OECD, from WHO, from the International Council of Sciences, and others. We had policy panels involving the WHO, UNESCO, for example, the African Academy of Sciences, or the International Network of Government Science Advisors. So this was really not just the typical crowd in a scientific conference which would always say, give us more money and we will solve all of your problems. It was about a reality check for all of this. On this occasion, the NIH, with her deputy director, announced that they are going to create a real-world data platform, and they believe that integrating the exposome into this is going to be a necessary step. 2 NIH institutes were co-organizing our event, 4 were present, and they also legally signed the declaration which came out of this event. AI was identified as a critical force. This is an article in Nature Medicine in July, which is summarizing the role of AI in delivering on this tool. This is the declaration which was ultimately signed. There's still the opportunity to do so, to commit to this and become part of this movement and be informed about newsletters and others we have been creating. I've been since traveling the world to make this a real global effort, and I can announce proudly today 3 different international expansions of our global exposome forum, which was created. South Africa has announced the facilitation of the creation of a Pan-African chapter. We have South American and Asian chapters in the making. So this will become a truly international effort, not just a transatlantic one, as you have just seen. UNESCO has started to host events around creating a collaboration with the Human Exposome Cell Atlas. The Human Cell Atlas is a project under the auspices of UNESCO, and we are expecting in early March to sign a memorandum of understanding with UNESCO to move forward here. And also the already mentioned INGSA, the International Government Science Advisor Network, is working with us. We are developing at the moment Exposome ethics and have planned a joint workshop on this topic. So this is moving forward. The next event already announced will be in Barcelona in April, where we are starting to see the next level of evolution, and we are preparing at the moment in early 2027 the next US type of meeting on this topic. With this, I hope I've shown you the enormous growth which took place in this field in recent years. Thank you very much.